Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like, because the purpose of this channel is educational in regards to atheist and deconversion issues and any issues related to those issues. Hearty shout out to the Rabyd Nation. Join the nation by hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to become a paying citizen of the nation, hit that join button and offer up whatever financial support you can afford. I appreciate anything that you can do, and it's just well appreciated. Thank you very much. Today I'm continuing on Tuesday Bible study. I haven't really been given any passage to do from the crowd, so I'm going to continue on with switching back and forth, and we're going to talk more about God kills in this episode, when God kills. I want to talk about Herod's slaughter of the innocents, found in Matthew 2 through 18. I'm not going to read the passage because I think we're all well familiar that, Herod gets pissed off because the Magi trick him, so he goes into Bethlehem and he slaughters all the boys 2 years and old and under. Joseph gets warned in a dream and takes Mary away and the baby, and so that's escaping. We're here in approaching Christmas time with this one, so I figured this one's kind of appropriate because it's part of the Christmas story with the Magi. And so this is supposedly a fulfillment of Jeremiah 31:15, the voice in Ramah weeping for her children. Okay, now some of you are going to say, well, but God didn't kill anybody, Herod did. I beg to differ. Just because God, remember, this series about when God kills is about when God is directly or indirectly responsible for the death of others. When he orders the killing, or because of something he has done, people are going to be killed. And in this case, because of something he has done, people are going to be killed. In particular, God has inspired somebody with this prophecy about a voice in Ramah weeping for her children, which Matthew, when he's putting together his chronology of the life of Jesus Christ, picks up and says that this prophecy that God gave to his people was fulfilled when Herod slaughtered these innocents. Now this creates a lot of problems. Just because God uses an agent to kill so a prophecy is fulfilled doesn't mean that somehow that intermediate agency makes him not responsible. If something is in God's word, then he's the one that spoke it. It better be fulfilled, or it's an unfulfilled prophecy. Okay, so this prophecy is given by God and inspired the prophet to make it. Now, this prophecy has to be fulfilled for Matthew to claim that Jeremiah 31:15 applies to Jesus. Okay, so there's a lot riding on this prophecy if Matthew is correct in using this prophecy as proof of Jesus. So I don't think God can leave that to chance. And one of the things that we know he probably did, if we read the Bible literally, is according to Romans 13, there's no power placed in but given by God. So Herod himself is placed in this position so that at some point he can fulfill this prophecy. God has placed him there for this purpose. He has given the prophecy. He has set up, he's put all the chess pieces in place, and now all we have to do is wait for the proper time. And sure enough, the Magi come, and because of that, that triggers a whole series of events where Herod sends his men into Bethlehem, killing every baby boy 2 and under. God has some responsibility here because he, A, put Herod in power, and B, gave the prophecy. So this is God kills, okay? And we're talking about innocent baby boys who hadn't done anything wrong to anybody, somehow had to die in order to prove that Jesus was the Messiah. I want you to think about that. That God, in his planning ahead for his son coming to earth, he has to plan in such a way, he comes up with this plan that says, you know what's really going to prove that my son's Messiah is Herod's going to get torqued about the fact that the Magi tricked him and went some other way. And so he's going to send his men and slaughter these innocent babies. And I'm going to give Jeremiah the prophet a prophecy about this effect. And that is going to prove more and more that my son is. I want to think about the mentality of that. That God literally is saying, I need to slaughter innocent babies in order to prove that my son will be the Messiah. What do you think about that? And so I'm going to have Herod do it, so he gets the blame. But I'm the one that gave the prophecy and put Herod into power. That's God's character here. You know, it brings up the big question. Why is it necessary? Could this not have been done some other way? Is an omniscient, omnipotent God so incompetent that he can't find a better way to fulfill a different prophecy in order to avoid the slaughter of anybody innocent? It's almost like he doesn't care about the innocents. I mean, this isn't just about the slaughter of the innocents. Every mother, every father that watches their baby boy, I mean, baby boys in this culture are very, very important to leaving a legacy. And so Herod just comes in and slaughters a lot of men's legacy, kills a lot of women's, heart, their child, and all to fulfill a prophecy so we can say, yep, Jesus fulfilled that prophecy. Well, we don't know how many, but a good number, at least 2. One's enough. Okay, now I think there's other things going on in this passage, but I just want to point out that this doesn't make a lot of sense. If you're going to sit there and say God is a good God, that somehow infant babies are nothing more than pawns to him in order to fulfill his will. Okay, that's all they are to him. Okay, he doesn't care. Oh, well, they're going on to another. There is no acceptable reason for this. Killing babies is wrong to almost everybody I know. Okay, there's psychopaths out there, I'm sure, will say, oh yeah, it's okay. And there's certain people that have found themselves in certain mental states where it didn't work out. But the fact of the matter is, most of us will sit there and say, yeah, that's wrong. Why is that? And it brings up the question of God's planning. Are you really saying that you couldn't come up with a different, how about the star, that the Magi, how about prophesying about the Magi coming and that they would be following a star? Wouldn't that have just went ding, 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 ding to a lot of people? No, we got to have blood. We got to have innocent babies suffering in order for us to fulfill this prophecy. Okay? So that we can prove that Jesus is the Messiah. Now, I think that when Matthew writes this story, now, a couple of things about this story. It has no contemporary witness that this is even a real story. It could be completely made up. And it might be, given the political motivations of whoever wrote Matthew. And this is just a theory of mine, by the way, but I think it's bared out by the facts. Okay, because what Matthew is trying to do is prove that Jesus is the Jewish Messiah. That becomes very clear if you read the whole book of Matthew. That's why there's so many prophetic utterances. It's why, Matthew doesn't spend an inordinate amount of time explaining Jewish customs. He figures his audience already knows. He deals with a lot of messianic themes that were interpretations at the time. He deals directly with the Herodians, and there's a reason for that. In Matthew's account, the Herodians are one of the people that ask Jesus a question, and particularly the question about, is it lawful to give tax to Caesar or not? Okay, and so while the other 2 Gospels that mention the Herodians just kind of go, well, they were plotting with the Pharisees to kill Jesus. But Matthew gets very specific with the Herodians, okay, because Herodians are ones backing Herod. Even though Herod is dead, what they're saying is Herod was indeed the Messiah and thus fulfilled those scriptures because they wanted to be known as people that backed Herod. Now, why did Herod do that? Now, recent archaeological finds, I think Apologia had this on his channel a couple days ago. I'll try to find the video and link it in the description. But the idea was that this archaeologist said is we found this thing in Herod's city, it's the only one he named after himself, where there's definitely him saying that I am the Messiah, I am the thing, okay? And if he was making a claim to messianic leadership, then Matthew has to not only exalt Jesus, but he has to undercut Herod. Now this is, before everybody in the theist section comments, is a lot of theists find this intriguing too, as to why Matthew would write this as his motivation, okay? Do you hear what I'm saying? that part of it was to show Herod was a false Messiah, okay, and that Jesus was the real one. So whether you're a theist or not, basically whoever's writing Matthew, or Matthew, if you believe that Matthew wrote it, is trying to undercut the Herodians and the idea of Herod being the Messiah or a false Messiah, and that it's actually Jesus, okay, that is the Messiah. Take that one way or the other. Now, for me, it's a very, I think Matthew was written much later, probably 2nd century, okay? We don't, early 2nd century maybe. And so Matthew, the tax collector, could not have been writing this book, okay? I just don't see it. When Matthew gets the account of his own conversion, quote unquote, it's the same as Mark. He literally quotes Mark word for word. It seems like if it was written by Matthew, Matthew would have had some special insights. He would have used, when I first encountered Christ or whatever, but he doesn't do that. And so it tells me that somebody else has picked up the story and is writing. And when you look at the names of these 4 Gospels, we have to understand that they were named in the 2nd century, which means they were named that to add some credibility to them, whether or not they were written by anybody. All of them are written anonymously. But I think the writer of Matthew is tipping his hat a little bit as to his politics when it comes to messianic things. He's trying to undercut Herod and exalt Jesus, and he's trying to create Herod as this brutal, murdering dictator. But I wouldn't let Matthew get away with it. You're fulfilling prophecy, so God put him there to fulfill the prophecy, knowing that innocent babies would suffer as a result and die. Okay, and I think that's an interesting question. Okay, so when I look at this passage now as an atheist, I can see the politics of it. That whatever Matthew's trying to do within the Jewish community, because we need to, from my perspective, if it's not for Paul, okay, Christianity would never have been more than a sect in Judaism, okay, and Matthew plays into that. He doesn't really seem to care about the Gentiles all that much, but what he does care about is making sure that the Jews understand that Jesus was the Messiah, okay, so if he's doing that, and I think he is, then his object is to undercut Herod from being the Jewish Messiah and exalt Jesus Christ in his place. Okay, and so in the 2nd century, this still would have been going on. Okay, there would still have been a lot of people trying to claim this. Herod had built a lot of things, but for the Herodians, what they were thinking was, yeah, but he kept the Romans out. He built a lot of things. He brought a lot of his prosperity and power, even in the Roman Empire. And it wasn't until his sons got in charge that things got mucked up. And so they're saying he was the Messiah, okay, and we missed him, okay. Sound familiar? It just, and Matthew comes along and says, no, he wasn't. He wasn't the Messiah. He claimed to be the Messiah, but he was a false Messiah. Jesus is the real Messiah. And he does it with this story. Now, the real problem, there's no contemporary that states this, once again. There's plenty of chroniclers of Herod's life. None of them mention it. Okay, the only place that this slaughter of the innocent story with its fulfilled prophecy of Jeremiah 31:15 appears is in Matthew. Okay, it's the only place. I think really what this boils down to is there's a combination in Matthew's writing of a political objective and a thought objective, exalting the Christian Jesus in place of Herod as the Messiah. But I also think there's a post hoc rationalization of using Jeremiah 31:15. I mean, the writer of Matthew definitely knew his Old Testament. Okay, he quotes from it prolifically. And he's trying to write with this story to undercut Herod, at the same time exalt Jesus, and he's using a prophecy from Jeremiah to say that it's proof, and that's, to me, it's post hoc rationalization, that somehow, even if this event took place, it would still be post hoc rationalization. Because, that fulfilled that prophecy, and you still wouldn't have anything. But in this passage, the big question still remains. Could not God, an all-wise, all-powerful God, done some way to show that his son was indeed the Messiah without killing innocent baby boys? He should have been able to. And it really strikes me as strange that God thinks that blood and slaughter of innocents is a good way to prove that his son was the Messiah. It seems kind of weird to me. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Tuesday Bible Study, in this particular case, When God Kills, and looking at Herod, just in time for the holidays. Hopefully it'll give you some things to say to maybe your theist friends that want to argue this point. But I know that, a lot of people look at this and they think, oh, wow, what a great fulfillment of prophecy. I don't think it's all that cool, and God's definitely responsible for it. Just because the king puts another person in position, and that person does something, doesn't change the fact that by putting him in the position, he's still responsible, correct? Okay, so I don't know. I'd be interested in your thoughts in the comments, but it seems to me this passage makes a lot more sense when you add the politics, the idea of Herod claiming to be the Messiah, the Herodians backing that, and then Matthew coming along and saying, no, he wasn't the Messiah, he was a false Messiah, and Jesus is the real one, and this story and this prophecy proves it. Unfortunately for us today, this is all we got. And so it kind of stands alone. It's purely for the Bible tells me so. So thanks once again for stopping by. I appreciate every like, share, and subscribe. Join the nation, do the things that you do. I appreciate every bit of support that you guys give me. It's been great. We're getting closer and closer to our goals, and just broke 1,100 subscribers recently. The watch hours are going up at 20, 30, 40 a day. So I'm getting closer and closer, faster and faster. So thank you very much. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around. Make sure you're using your time, money, energies on doing things for yourself and for family and for the people that you love and care for, and for the world at large. And don't waste any of that on the trappings of religion or faith, because that's a dead end, and I know it from experience. Thanks once again for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.